This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately.
That was weird. I had this cup so I couldn't see where my mouse was. You know, the tumbler. Yeah, I don't know if my bot's working or not. I could try it. Let me try it again. Okay, we'll see. See if it works or not. Don't know. Alright, what's going on? Yeah, you have to send me an email though. Kate R. Hey. Wow! Thanks, Emily Flotilla! Wow! Oh, you just a little bit sleepy? Okay. Glad you got vaccinated.
Second vaccine today.
I don't know.
Just sleepy. Love you all. I.
Alright, so Emily, you got your shot. You know, you might feel something a little bit more tomorrow, but then you'll be perfectly fine a day after that. Awesome. Oregon sucks, okay? You know, she said that our governor's just a total moron, right? Like, she said that on the May 1st, maybe other people can get shots. It's just, she's just an idiot. But now they've changed it to May 1st, people can get shots. I mean, look how long that is from now. The whole rest of the country is getting their shots. I don't know, man. I wonder if I can make an appointment out of state somewhere in Vancouver. Yep, that was a pretty good win. Came back right at the end there. Yep. So thank you very much, Emily Flotilla. Anybody here from Jennifer Rochelle? Are you out there, Jennifer? How did your second shot go? I know it sucks. Our state's just idiotic, you know. Oh yeah, you know, just take your time. You know, we're not in a hurry or anything. No, we kind of are. Oregon is just a joke. Look what happened with the riots. You know, the governor didn't do shit for those either. Just really a ridiculous person. You know, there's no rhyme or reason for it. How was your second shot, Jennifer? Yeah, literally, our governor is just a total, like, just a really stupid person. She kind of snuck in there because the other governor, who actually ran against Chris Dudley, an NBA player who would have been a great governor, he ran against, an ex-governor, and then he came back again. Like, I think his name was like, oh shit, I can't remember. Has like an N in it. And anyways, he was corrupted. he was corrupt. So then this other lady came in and just sort of took it over, and she's just a pile of shit as a governor. I mean, I don't know how else to tell you. Kate Brown, I mean, just an embarrassment. Just as a human being, she's an embarrassment. Yeah. Oh, good. So now you're all better. See, there you go. All right, so I do have an update on the lady in the drain. So I don't know. Stuff doesn't make a lot of sense out of this, See, the lady in the drain said, the missing woman pulled naked from a Florida storm drain this week claims she survived through her 3-week ordeal on ginger ale alone. Yeah, I don't know. When Delray Beach firefighters hauled Lindsay Jane Kennedy, 43, up from below a sidewalk on Tuesday after a passerby heard her cries for help and called 911, they had one question for the Florida woman. How did she survive weeks below the ground? And that's her right there. I mean, she looks, somewhat, pretty normal. Yeah. Lindsay Jane Kennedy claims to have survived 3 weeks in a storm drain. I'm just not, I don't really buy it. Kennedy answered that question on Thursday, saying she found a bottle of ginger ale and kept drinking from it throughout her situation. Really? A bottle of it? Okay. Kennedy was reported missing weeks ago on March 3rd in Palm Beach County. Now listen to this ridiculous, like how it all came about. She had been swimming in a canal near her boyfriend's home shortly before she disappeared. Okay, so she was swimming in a canal. Well, there's another one that said swimming pool. Kennedy reportedly has a history of mental health issues and drug abuse. Told officers she came across a doorway near a shallow part of the canal and spotted a tunnel. I mean, I guess it's possibly true. 3 weeks, I don't know. She claimed that she became curious as to where the tunnel led and continued to follow it. A police report reads, that tunnel led to another tunnel and so on until she realized that she was lost. While investigators are unsure, I mean, I guess it's possible, but 3 weeks with really just drinking 1 can of ginger ale? I don't know. I don't even think you'd have any strength to be moving. Police are still investigating Kennedy's story, saying the storm drain she was found in does not connect to the city's drainage system. While investigators are unsure how long Kennedy had been in the drain for, she claimed the officers that she'd been stuck in the sewer system for approximately 3 weeks. Police are still investigating. It almost sounds like they concocted a plan somehow. Police are still investigating Kennedy's story, saying the storm drain she was found in does not connect to the city's drainage system. Right, so what they're saying is it wouldn't have ran into the canal, which is part of this, the drainage system, and then she wouldn't have been able to get to where she was. Instead, authorities are looking into a nearby canal close to a golf course where Kennedy was at her boyfriend's home, adding that they don't know if she truly underground, they left out a word, for full 3 weeks. According to the missing persons report filed on sheriff's filed at the sheriff's office, her boyfriend said he left her sleeping at 6:30 a.m. on March 3rd, only to return home later that day and find her gone, leaving her cell phone and purse behind. By the time she was rescued on Tuesday, Kennedy was unable to stand up, was completely nude, and very dirty. Delray Beach Fire Rescue spokesperson said. Right? So that's the drain. They're probably talking to her at the time. And we're getting close to the end of the month, and I just want to let you know Emily Flotilla's donation will be added to the entire amount that I bring in, and I donate a large, it helps support the channel and the charities that we contribute to at the end of the month. So this month I'm going to try to do $3,000. We've already done $600, so we're going to do $2,400 more, hopefully. It always depends on how it works that last night, and that'll be on the last day. So come back here on March 31st, which is 6 days from now. We do our final night, and depending on that, we might be able to get it up to that number. All right. So that's it. And I think this what we're trying to do this. I'm trying to build up the DNA fund up to about 15,000. We've got that to 6, so I'll probably add another, I don't know, maybe 1,500, and then we'll take the other 900 and donate it to a couple places. Because people do that all the time, Gen H. They think they'll get some kind of some sort of reward, like publicity for it, and get some notoriety, some GoFundMe accounts, I think that's what people do, this kind of stuff all the time. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Three weeks, really? I don't know. Yeah, let's start focusing on the cases, though, okay? All right.
Good evening, Freak family. Don't forget to smack that thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Pictures from the scene show her covered with a white sheet with leaves in her hair, and she appeared too weak to stand up without assistance. Thank you, Michelle Nicholas. The spokesperson for Delray Beach Police called the incident by far one of the most bizarre incidents that our officers have responded to. So it's already just this really crazy story. Images captured by local media showed police and firefighters hoisting the woman out of the drain along Atlantic Boulevard. Moments earlier, as passerby had called 911 to startlingly report there's someone stuck in the sewer. There's a lady stuck in the sewer. Yes, she can't get out. She's screaming for help, she told dispatchers. After rescuing Kennedy, police described her as being very lucid. See, that would be weird to be very lucid after 3 weeks of just drinking one bottle of whatever the hell that was again. Or ginger ale, right? She's very lucid during an interview and did not meet the requirements to be temporarily institutionalized under the state's Baker Act. Officers did, however, call the woman's rendition of events strange. Kennedy was taken to the Delray Medical Center to be treated for her injuries and for her mental health to be assessed. She has since been released. So now she's just walking around. Everything's fine. Police don't suspect any foul play and believe she must have accessed the drain from a different entrance of her own volition. So she maybe, I don't know. My feeling is that she was doing something else for quite a while, then got into the system some other way for just like a day or so, 3 or 4 days maybe, and then goes, oh man, I've been gone for, I don't know. I'm having a hard time believing that she was in there for 3 weeks. That's just, there's people out in the wild where there's fresh water and things like that, and they die because they don't have enough food. And she's just drinking ginger ale underground. I don't know. Investigators did also contact Kennedy's mother. She told officers her daughter has a history of mental illness. See, I think that leads to maybe why there's a story being told. She also stated that Kennedy has a history of doing odd things and making bad decisions when she is high on drugs. It was also found out that Kennedy is a methadone patient, and she had her last dose on March 2nd. White theorized the woman appeared to have been stuck in the drain for at least a couple of days, perhaps longer. A small crowd gathered at the scene of the rescued. Clapped and cheered as Kennedy was pulled to safety. She claims that she's been in the storm drain for a significant amount of time. Maybe that's what this is.
These images showing Delray Beach police and firefighters surrounding a storm drain near the intersection of Atlantic Avenue and Southwest 11th Avenue early Tuesday after a person heard what sounded like a woman's voice down below. Yeah. These images...
All right, well, that's the update on that one. I'm sure we'll find out later. Okay, it was a plan concocted by her and her boyfriend to get sympathy. You know, you wonder how quickly a GoFundMe page was started up, you know, who knows. Alright, so the first one I'm going to do of the two cases that were up there. I don't know how long this show will be tonight, but I'm going to go through these and see where we're at. Yeah, it just seems like you're just gonna drink ginger ale, one bottle. She would have been dead from dehydration. I mean, just so many things don't make sense here. I could see her walking, putting herself in there with the bottle of ginger ale. I don't know, Gene. Did you go? You should call them down over there and ask if they check for fresh needle marks. That wasn't in the article. I just read it. Did they check for fresh needle marks, everybody? I'll tell you what. Why don't you give them a call, see if they did. Gene Fish, back at it again. Hey, thanks, Allie Cake. Yeah, nothing makes sense about the entire story. So anyways, I'm going to move on to a different story here. I've read just a couple parts of them, so I'm actually interested in seeing what's going on here.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that story is actually sort of boring. The lady in the drain. It's just like, oh yeah, lady in the drain. Yep, it's not true, and that's it. We don't need to sleuth out, like, ooh, wow, here's the reason. You know, we'll hear it in the news here in a couple days. They're gonna go track where she could have gone. Somebody's gonna do it. All right, so this is the case of Stacy Colbert from 1998. It's not really that long ago. And this was just part of another article. This is the first time she was mentioned in the paper, and it was April 22nd, 1998. All right. She told the assembled group, this is just, they're talking about a bunch of different rape or people missing, it says. She pointed to the recent tragedy in Columbus where a neighbor reported hearing screams during the night coming from the apartment of Stacy Colbert. The neighbor didn't check on the woman. However, until the next afternoon. Colbert has now been missing 4 weeks, and police say there are few clues. People need to start helping, Johnson said. See, that's totally the truth, right? Why didn't she at least look outside when you heard the scream to see if you could see something? And then you might call the police. I know they said she was probably watching Jeopardy or some shit and was sitting there just going, yeah, no, kangaroos. What is a kangaroo? Yeah. You know, listen, people, take a little bit more and put your damn cell phone down, okay? Unless you can do two things at once. But help first, then film if you want to, okay? But just people needs to start being active a little bit. All right, here we go. So a $10,000 reward is being offered by American Electric Power for information leading to the arrest of those involved in the March disappearance of a Columbus woman, Stacy Beth Colbert, last reported for work at American Electric Power's Columbus office March 20th and has been missing ever since. So this is April 23rd. Crime Stoppers and the power company are offering the reward for leads on the whereabouts of Colbert, 23. She is described as 5'1", weighs 120 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information should call Crime Stoppers, but that number's no good. So, all right, now we're moving to July 17th, so 3 months later, 1998. Police seek connections in murder-rape cases, looking for DNA matches with Marion Felon. Columbus police are checking to see if there is a connection between a Marion rapist and several unsolved murder-rape cases in central Ohio. Alvin Graham, 31, pleaded guilty last week to charges of rape, attempted rape, and aggravated burglary involving 2 local women. A judge sentenced him to 18 years in prison. One of his victims, a 22-year-old woman, told police Graham talked about a missing sorority girl while he raped her, Marion County Prosecutor Jim Slagle said during sentencing. He made a comment. You know that missing sorority girl in Columbus? She's not so missing, Slagle said. Let's see. Stacy Beth Colbert, a 23-year-old Ohio State University graduate and member of Alpha Delta Pi, was last seen March 21st at her apartment on the northwest side of Columbus. She was reported missing 3 days later and has not been found. Wow, this guy's a pretty good suspect for that, isn't he? So what is he saying right here, this Slagle guy? One of his victims, a 22-year-old woman, told police Graham, let's see, about this guy here. So they told police that Graham talked about a missing sorority girl while he raped her in Marion County, Prosecutor Jim Slagle said. And then right here it says, he made a comment, you know that missing sorority girl in Columbus? She's not so missing. Oh wow, so that's what the witness said Graham said. Interesting. And he obviously broke into somebody else's home as well. Stacy Beth Colbert, a 23-year-old Ohio State University graduate and member of Alpha Delta Pi, was last seen March 21st at her apartment on the northwest side of Columbus. She was reported missing 3 days later and has not been found. Columbus homicide detectives want to compare Graham's DNA with the evidence collected from Colbert's case and others. There's certain things he has done, and he's piqued our interest, said Detective Pat Barr. He has ties to certain areas of town here. We do have some unsolved cases that happened close to his friends or family. Graham, also known as Benny the Jet, was still being held Thursday in the Marion County Jail. His mother, Jackie Bowers, who lives in Marion, was stunned to hear her son's name and come in, let's see, had come up in the Columbus investigations. Wow, that sounds like a really good possibility right there. Yeah, she went missing from her apartment, and obviously somebody broke into her apartment, and there were screams. And there was one more article here. This is from 1999, about a year later. So hold on a second. Alright, anyways, I'm back. I'm back, everybody! Hey! Hey, I'm back! So that's her right there. You can see her really small. Alright. Each season was a harbinger of hope. In the spring, friends of Stacy, Beth, Colbert waited for people venturing back outside after winter to come across some trace of the missing woman. Then came summer, and the chance that boaters or swimmers or fishermen might turn up a clue. Then fall, and the promise of hunters trekking through the barren woods. Now a year has passed, and the seasons have failed to cooperate. On Monday, friends and family struggling to cope with the loss will face the anniversary of the young woman's abduction and disappearance. Sometimes you can put it away for a day at a time, said her father, Larry Colbert, of Decatur, Georgia. But I could be driving, talking, walking, doing nothing, watching a TV commercial, and it just washes over you. Yep. Colbert says he knows his daughter is dead. The police investigation continues. We work on it every single day, said Detective Amy Morris. There's always something to do. A few weeks before her disappearance, Colbert celebrated her 23rd birthday at Martini's, an upscale restaurant just north of downtown Columbus. Let's see if that's still there. Oops. Hey, thanks, Lee D. I wonder if that's it. Martinis. Well, it's called Modern Italian. I don't know if that's it or not, but hey, thank you, classical guitarist. Took me a long time to figure that one out. Remember that? I was like, classical guitarist. Classical guitarist. Yeah. I don't even think I figured it out on my own. I think you guys helped me out. Anyways, this is in Columbus right here. Yeah, I don't know. I think it has to be, because it breaks it down in the actual dollar amount. I think if you did like 12, whatever the number is, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like if somebody did $10 of, Zimbabwe coins, or it said 10, it'd probably be a nickel. So they probably wouldn't give you the... Alright. Sometimes you can put it away for a day. Alright. Colbert says he knows his daughter's dead. The police investigation continues. We work on it every single day, and Detective Amy Morris, that's what she said. There's always something to do. A few weeks before her disappearance, Colbert celebrated her 23rd birthday at Martini's, an upscale restaurant just north of downtown Columbus. Well, yeah, I think that's probably it. I mean, there's downtown, right? And that's just north of... I'm going to put that there. Martini's. It's got to be it. Italian music served in a sleek place. Yeah, it sounds like maybe upscale. Let me go down to the ground and look at something. Yeah. Okay, so with her was a mix of Ohio State sorority sisters and work colleagues. So it's just a few weeks before she went missing. Optimistic, hardworking, always smiling, Colbert was winning high marks at her new job in the marketing department of American Electric Power Resources. I got the sense she was really happy with the way her life was going, said Molly Miller, an AEP paralegal. She had her old friends. She was making new friends. Colbert grew up in Charleston, a small city in east central Illinois where her father was a podiatrist. She spent 1 quarter at Lakeland Community College near Cleveland, then followed in the footsteps of her father and sister, Danielle, and entered Ohio State in January of 1994. She pledged Alpha Delta Pi and studied marketing, graduating in the summer of 1997. She worked as an intern at a medical supplies company, then landed the AEP job. In March of last year, she'd been putting in long hours on a budget presentation. She also had a cold, so she wasn't feeling well. She promised herself a weekend off. After a Friday night out with friends, she stayed home the next day, so she stayed home on Saturday, in her first floor, 1-bedroom apartment on the city's northwest side. She talked on the phone with her sister in Columbus and her father in Georgia. She chatted with a coworker who lived in the same complex. In the early evening, she ordered a double order of breadsticks from Papa John's, the minimum amount for a delivery. Wow, this is a lot of detail here. At about 4 a.m. in the morning, so really early in the morning, the next day, neighbors heard but never reported muffled sounds in the apartment. One man later told police he thought people were having sex. She was probably being raped. Monday passed without alarm. An office reorganization meant employees weren't in their accustomed places. Some assumed Colbert had called in sick and left a message on the voicemail of her boss, who was on vacation. They assumed that she did that. Suspicions grew the next day, midday Tuesday. Her sister got word that something was wrong. When Danielle arrived, Colbert's door was open, but there was no sign of a break-in. Colbert's purse, $40, and uncashed checks were untouched. Her car was in the parking lot. Her kitten was wandering outside. Man, that's a crazy one, huh? So she was absolutely just abducted and put into another vehicle and taken. Like most who knew Colbert, Alicia Berner, an Ohio State sorority sister, believes her friend recognized the person who entered her apartment. Yeah, just let her in. I mean, that's why it wasn't locked. Well, the person wouldn't lock the door leaving, most likely. He was probably carrying her body and just kind of went through the door, maybe, shoved it with his foot and took her out of the apartment. And, he isn't going to walk back up or, walk back to the apartment to shut the door nicely. He's going to get the hell out of Dodge, right? Let's see. Like most who knew Colbert, Alicia Berner of Ohio State sorority sister believes her friend recognized the person who entered her apartment. She was a trusting person who would have helped anyone. And so it seems like, it does seem like it's somebody that she knew. And then the person probably forced himself on her, and to keep her from never revealing that, because she knew him, he killed her. She couldn't lie to save her life, said Berner, 24. She always told the truth. A month after the disappearance, Colbert's friends and family cleaned out her apartment. At the end of 1998, AEP finally hired her replacement. In the past year, police have interviewed dozens of acquaintances, clearing people one by one. Could it be somebody we haven't even talked to? Of course, Morris said. It could just be somebody she didn't know as well. And if she's a trusting person, she might have just opened the door when somebody knocked on it. Friends and family continue to circulate flyers asking for help and sheets of stamp-sized photographs of Colbert. An $11,000 reward remains for information about Colbert's disappearance. Her sorority sisters are raising $500 for a commemorative tile at a new Spirit of Women fountain at Ohio State. Colbert's friends want to keep the story alive, but the abduction has taken its toll. They have a hard time being alone. They suffer from anxiety attacks. There have been crank calls alleging threats or knowledge of Colbert's whereabouts. A lot of people have commented that the cat's probably the only person who knew what happened. Well, the cat's not a person, so. Alright, so then we're moving 5 years later. Maryville police are looking for a link between a missing Maryville woman to match the skeletal remains of a body found in northwestern Delaware County this weekend. According to Delaware County Sheriff's investigators, the bones of a possible female victim were found Saturday just after noon by a hunter looking for his dog off Route 257 south of Prospect. Authorities are looking for a possible link in the disappearance of former Honda worker Patty Adkins, who has been missing since 2001. Maryville Police Chief Floyd Golden reported this morning that he has submitted Adkins' dental records to the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. Delaware authorities reported they have no missing females listed from their county, and other counties are submitting their missing persons information for comparison. Union County Sheriff's Department Lieutenant Eric Yoakum reported that, like many of the surrounding counties, the office has submitted information on Adkins to compare with the bones found. It is not known how long it will take to determine the identity of the victim. At this point, Yoakum said, it has nothing to do with Union County. And here's the remains, talking about the remains again. The skeletal remains found in Delaware County this weekend may have created more of a mystery about the disappearance of a Marysville woman than before. Delaware County Sheriff Al Myers reported Monday that the physical dimensions of the bones found on Saturday do not point to Adkins, although authorities have not ruled out the possibility. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. So they're looking at these bones. They thought they were the Atkins lady, but they didn't seem to match. They said they are not 100% sure, Union County Sheriff Lieutenant Jamie Patton said. But they are not consistent with Atkins, who was 5 foot 9 inches tall, when the bones of a 5 foot 3 inch, they're 5 foot 3 inches, okay? Reports also state the bones possibly belong to a woman between the age of 35 and 50. Atkins was 29 years old. The remains reportedly have signs of extensive dental work, such as possible braces at one point. The teeth were in good condition. Signs of possible bone disease, of injury to the left ankle, and of broken ribs were also covered. It is not known at this time how those injuries may relate to Atkins. Law enforcement has used the scientific help of Ohio University anthropologists to figure out who the female could be. The Delaware Sheriff's Office is asking the public for information to help identify the woman. They submitted her dental records, which are still being investigated since the bones were found Saturday. The Union County Sheriff's Department has been working with Delaware authorities for the possible tie to Atkins. And then on the 2nd of December, 2 days later, remains are missing Columbus woman. So they actually found, this is Colbert's body. 6 years ago, a Columbus woman was reported missing. Authorities finally identified her remains at 2:30 p.m. Wednesday. A hunter found, well, you might wonder how I found those other two articles since her name wasn't mentioned. But I sort of knew around the time her remains were found, and then looked up skeletal remains on specific dates and found those other two articles. So 6 years ago, a Columbus woman was reported missing. Authorities finally identified her remains at 2:30 p.m. Wednesday. A hunter found the remains of Stacy Beth Colbert, 23, in northern Delaware County last Friday while he was searching for a missing dog. Her remains lay in Thompson Township near Radnor, above the ground. Let me see where Radnor is. Yeah, it's pretty far away. Killer probably lives in this area right there. So in Radnor, so it was under brush near a branch of the Scioto River near Ohio 257. So there's 257, so near there. And let's just sort of put a pin over here somewhere. Yeah, that's 257. Beneath leaves and under brush near a branch of the Scioto River near Ohio 257. Ohio University in Athens forensic anthropology Nancy Tatarek and a forensic dentist from Ohio State University used dental records to determine that the remains were Colbert's. Several missing persons were considered, but height analysis pointed to Colbert, who was 5'1", about the estimated height of the remains. Delaware County Sheriff Al Myers said that he doesn't know when the young woman was placed there beneath the trees, and forensics has yet to determine the cause of death. It's probably off near a road, though. No, look at that, actually. So somewhere down out here, we don't know for sure, but they said it was near Radnor, which is right there, and then That's pretty close, so somewhere like probably around in this area. Okay. So several missing persons were considered, but height analysis points to Colbert. Yeah. Let's see. We still have a large amount of leaves and articles from the scene, Meyer says at a press conference. Hopefully there's a story in those leaves. Columbus Police Department homicide detective David Morris said some of the articles found in the 1.5 bags of leaves and underbrush gathered could be used as evidence. But despite new evidence, it's a cold case. We have a strong reason to believe that the intruder was known to her, Morris said. Reports indicate an intruder took Colbert from her home in a Governor Square apartment building. Let's see where that is. Okay, Governor's Square, yep. Okay, so that's Martini's, and apparently that's Governor's Square, so let's just say she lived here. This makes sense too, because they said northwest. Thanks, Zozo. Okay, let's see what these look like. Just kind of a general idea. First floor apartment. Yeah, so just some basic entry, I guess. Here, I'm going to look something up really quick. Hold on. So she'd be about, what, 40 something? Let's see where this takes me. Hold on.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Hey, Claudia Neubauer. Thank you. Chewbacca. Hey, thanks, Carolyn EHS. I'm just going to try out these different addresses in Columbus, see what happens, of this individual. It doesn't say she's not alive, though. Okay, probably not that one. How about this one? No. This one? This one might be. Yep. Look at that. Right, landed right on that one. So this is her. That's the building too. See, I actually found the exact apartment right there. Hey, that's awesome. All right. Now look how close that pin was, just anyways, right? Pure luck, but let's see. So I was right here. 1221 Waterford Drive, Unit A. Right there. That's crazy. So probably you walk, you don't go up the stairs, you go forward. And then the door is probably, I think you can actually see the door right here. See that door? Through there? I think that's it. That's right. Boom! I always like being able to find something like that. Alright, let me put that in there. Oops. Alright. We have a strong reason to believe that the intruder was known to her, Morris said. Reports indicate an intruder took Colbert from her home in a Governor Square apartment building. We know exactly which one it is now. On Kenny Road and West Henderson Road. Now, I don't need to look at it. We see it right there. And it suggests she was placed in the Thompson Township spot after her death. So she wasn't killed there. Yeah, she was just dumped. Colbert was reported missing through the Columbus Police Department on March 28, 1998, according to a news release from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. Colbert, how long I wonder how long hair survives for DNA testing. Like if you find a caveman's hair, or how about this? Like a woolly mammoth, right? You know, you wonder if like you take their hair, can you get the DNA out of it? Or even just a piece of hair off of, you know, because in those leaves that they collected near where she was found, you know, it's just really pure luck, though. I mean, the odds of a hair falling off just in that one moment is pretty low. But you might have had one on your body, or... So thank you, Claudia Dubauer and Carolyn EHS. Colbert was reported missing through the Columbus Police Department on March 28, 1998, according to news release from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. Colbert's sister, Danielle Nussbaum of Marysville, put the date of disappearance at March 22nd. It's actually the 24th, 1998. Nussbaum said no one saw anyone leave or enter the apartment, and the last one to see her sister was the pizza delivery person who came to Colbert's door. What about that pizza guy? Huh? Came back later. Colbert's shoes and car weren't taken, Nussbaum said. Wow, so she was just, I think she was sexually assaulted, strangled, and killed in that apartment. You know, obviously, probably not stabbed, or they would have mentioned something like that they found blood. I think she was probably sexually assaulted, strangled, and then at 4 in the morning, nobody's awake. Carried the body out to the car, drove it to a secluded area, dumped her body. In the middle of the night, a neighbor heard a horrible screams, but no one reported it. Wow. She said her sister had graduated from Ohio State University 6 months before the incident and was eager to start life, just beginning work at American Electric Power as a marketing analyst and going for runs every day. She was very happy and loving, Nussbaum said. She'd do anything for you. Officials investigated the possibility that the remains were Patricia Atkins of Maryville, Union County. Atkins was reported missing after clocking out from her shift at the Honda plant in Marysville in June of 2001. She grew up in the Marion. I wonder if that one's. Let's see. Hold on a second. What's her name? Patricia Atkins. Missing person. This is the other person they're talking about. Ohio mother Patricia Atkins remains missing 17 years after her disappearance. So hell, maybe we'll do this one tomorrow. Just to have one related, right? I mean, it's pretty interesting. I'll put this over here. What do you guys think? Should I do that one? Now that it's been brought up, you might as well, right? Not tonight, but. Well, there isn't really extra to know, Claudia. It's basically she was just in her apartment at night. Now, she wasn't feeling well, so she stayed at home, ordered some breadsticks, and then at 4 in the morning, somebody heard muffled sounds in there, and then somebody also heard a scream, and her car was there. Everything was there except her. Even her shoes were still in the house, and somebody abducted her probably after she was killed, I would say. Because I think it would be really difficult to get somebody, maybe at gunpoint to walk out, but it doesn't sound like that's what happened. There was muffled sound. That was probably her being strangled at that point. Or him keeping her quiet during the rape. And then they found her body 6 years later, way far away. Officials investigated the possibility that the remains were Patricia Atkins. Right? Morris said he has no suspects, backed by strong evidence in the Colbert case, but in these sorts of instances, there are always a few suspects whom he marks as possibilities because of a combination of evidence and gut instinct. You always have someone in the back of your mind who worries you, Morris said. It's just a feeling. Thompson Township resident Marla Sager said Tuesday that when she heard about the remains being found less than a half mile south of her home, she wasn't afraid for her life because she said victims often know their attackers. But she said that, Thompson Township resident. Okay. So it wasn't found anywhere near the victim's house. Nussbaum said for her, the troublesome part is losing her sister and still not completely knowing what happened to the sweet girl she called an integral part of her life. The world is a little sad without her. Alright, and then the next day. Remains being closure for family. The skeletal remains found in Delaware County last week have brought closure for a Marysville resident. According to reports released Wednesday by Delaware County Sheriff officials and Columbus Police, the remains found near Radnor in Delaware County were those of missing Columbus woman named Stacy B. Colbert. Colbert has been missing since March 1998. She was 23 years old when she disappeared, and despite intensive searches, was never found. She was described by family members as hard-working person who balanced her work ethics and had a delightful personality. Colbert's sister, Danielle Nussbaum, 32, lives in Marysville, and said Thursday morning that it was difficult to hear the news, but it's a relief to know that there are finally some answers. Local law enforcement agencies. See, isn't that weird? That's what I always say. Like for missing persons, just finding the body is a relief, even though there's no answers as to the why. Let's see. After Colbert disappeared, her sister said her family knew right away something was wrong. She said her sister was a very goal-oriented person who never went longer than 1 or 2 days without contacting the family and who always showed up for work. But Nussbaum said Colbert was last seen by a pizza delivery man at her apartment on Kenny Road on the northwest side of Columbus. Police also told her Colbert's neighbor reportedly heard a scream. You just know something is wrong, Nussbaum said. Me and my sister were only 2 years different in age, and we just lived 2.1 miles apart. We were very close. In the meantime, her family continued to hold on to some hope she would be found, and Columbus Police homicide detective David Morris was busy investigating the case. After many years of hearing reports of victims' remains found throughout the central Ohio, Nussbaum said this time around it was different. She was driving in her car with her husband when they learned that remains had been found in Delaware County. It was more of a surprise, she said. I had been really busy and I wasn't monitoring the newspapers. Their hopes were only low because law enforcement believed the body belonged to a woman possibly in her 40s. But you always think, what if this is the one? Nussbaum said. There's always a glimmer of hope in the back of your mind. Then on Wednesday, forensic dentists at the Ohio State University matched Colbert's dental x-ray to the teeth in the skull and skeleton found by hunters Saturday afternoon. The information provided by forensic also brought closure to her family and ended almost 7 years of searching. Now Nussbaum hopes to learn who could have killed her sister so many years ago and if there will be justice served. I hope they find the person, some forensic evidence, Nussbaum said, so that whoever did this can't do it to anyone else, so it can bring our family some resolve. For now, Nussbaum would like people to know that the imprint of Colbert's life was felt by many. She was such an energetic, bubbly person, very happy-go-lucky, she said. Her sister was a person who overcame an eye problem from a disability and ended up going on a high school and later Ohio State University. She was then hired by American Electric Power and became a very successful marketing person. She overcame a lot, Nussbaum said. I just want people to know how much of a wonderful, loving person she was and that many people will hold the imprint she left in life very close. Nussbaum also said there is a website people can view at www.stacybethcolbert.com where many friends and family have written about her. There are a lot of memories out there from over the years, Nussbaum said. Authorities have listed Colbert's death as a homicide and now hope the discovery of her remains will bring out new leads in her case. Anyone with information about it, got to call that number, but that's a long time ago. Let me put this that website, see if it's still there. www.stacybethcolbert. Yeah, it's not there anymore. Okay. And then there was an obituary here. I was just thinking down here, it said a lot of that same stuff, but she was born February 3rd, 1975 in Chicago, grew up in Charleston. This is why obituaries are so valuable to genealogists, to get this kind of information. She graduated in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and was a member and active alumni of the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. She was a member of the American Marketing Association, enjoyed her position as a marketing assistant with American Electric Power. Her internships included marketing assistant for McDonald's and Coca-Cola at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta, and fashion merchandising for the Atlanta Apparel Mart. A 1993 graduate of Charleston High School, she played varsity tennis and was involved in cheerleading, the Trojets drill team, chorus and musicals. Yeah, so that sucks. And then there's also the 2019 article here. So let's see if there's anything new in this one. You know where all this came from, everybody? Let me just show you. This is all there is on the Ohio Attorney General's page. That's her right there. And that's it. Just this little bit right there. So I thought, well, let me just look it up. And there's a hell of a lot more information. You know, it's not like they could have put a little bit more in here, I think. Applause and standing ovations blasted from the television set in Daniel Nussbaum's living room late Monday evening on March 23, 1998. The night of the 70th Academy Awards, in the wake of the blockbuster hit Titanic, Nussbaum flooded her younger sister Stacey Colbert's inbox with voicemails about heartthrob Leonardo DiCaprio, and the film's Best Picture win. She had just taken... That's so weird. That doesn't seem like that was that long ago when that came out. She had just taken Stacy to see the movie for her 23rd birthday. Her excitement was met with silence on the other end. 26-year-old Nussbaum went to sleep that night thinking Stacy was away on a business trip. And... on a business trip, and her sister was sure to return her calls the following morning. Instead, it was Stacy's employer who was on Nussbaum's answering machine when she arrived home from work the next day. Her sister hadn't been to work in days and hadn't called in. That's not like her. I knew something was wrong right away, Nussbaum said. My life is really before... Nussbaum said, my life is really before that call and after that call. According to police, Stacy was seen on Saturday, March 21st. Yeah, that call was what changed the entire trajectory of her life. Right before that, everything's happy-go-lucky, just talking to his sister. And then from that moment on, you have a missing sister, and then you find her dead, and there's never any answers for that. According to police, Stacy was seen on Saturday, March 21st by a pizza delivery driver who delivered breadsticks to her Governor Square apartment just 15 minutes northwest of campus at 6 p.m., so that was pretty early in the evening. He was the last person to report her alive. Within days, flyers of Stacy's smiling face, dark brown hair, and brown eyes cropped from the Colbert's holiday card the previous December were plastered on buildings and lampposts lining the streets of Columbus and Ohio State campus. Just a year prior, Stacy graduated from the university with a bachelor's degree in marketing. It had only been 6 months since she started her job in her chosen career field as marketing assistant with American Electric Power in Columbus. Everyone wanted to know what had happened to the recent alumna and beloved member of Alpha Delta Pi sorority. Everybody was sort of taken aback by that, Matt Reese, who experienced a shock on campus firsthand as an undergraduate student in 1998 and attended her vigil at Lantern, photographer said. That's a long sentence before the said. You don't think about that kind of thing happening, and when it did, it was pretty surprising. Stacy remains were... Let me see that part again. Everybody was sort of taken aback by that, Matt Reese, who experienced the shock on campus firsthand as an undergraduate student in 1998 and attended her vigil as a Lantern photographer, said. You don't think about that kind of thing happening, and when it did, it was pretty surprising. Stacy's remains weren't found until years later in 2004, and how she was killed is still a mystery, more than 20 years after her disappearance. Her family said they are reopening old wounds in hopes of carrying out justice and finally finding her killer. She was an amazing person. She didn't deserve to die the way she died. Nussbaum, now 47, said she deserved to be here. So she wasn't much older than her sister. After receiving the call from AEP March 24th, Nussbaum rushed over to Stacy's apartment after work, only 2 miles away from her own, to be met with shock. Stacy's car was parked out front, and her apartment door was unlocked, just slightly cracked. There was no evidence of a burglary or theft. Nussbaum entered the apartment. Clothes were strewn about, the refrigerator door open, and a half-eaten box of breadsticks sat on the counter. But she got those at 6, so... Stacy's keys, purse, and credit cards hadn't been taken. Nothing was missing except her cat, Boots, who had escaped through the open door. It was a nightmare, Nussbaum. So it wasn't just cracked a little bit. It was big enough for a cat to get through, right? It was a nightmare, Nussbaum said. I walked in, and all of her stuff was there. But she wasn't there. Panicked and confused, she called her father, Larry Colbert. Have you heard from her? Like Dad, she's not here, Nussbaum. Have you heard from her? Like Dad. I don't know what that means. That's just like Dad, she's not here. Okay. Recounted, she said he hadn't heard from Stacy. I called the police right away, Nussbaum said. Police started by questioning Stacy's neighbors and the pizza delivery driver, who might have heard or seen anything amiss. Well, you know that the pizza delivery driver, when he dropped it off, didn't do anything to her because she'd eaten half of the breadsticks, right? So one of her neighbors who lived in the upstairs apartment C, well, shit, let's see, we can figure out what that is. Let me put unit C here. Yeah, I would think that would be the one right on top of it, right? Because normally the way it works, it would be A, B, C, D. So A is the one below, and then D is, or C is the one above it. So A, C, and on this side is B and D. Yeah, well, I said maybe he came back earlier, but we don't know. I mean, pizza guy is definitely sort of an interesting guy because he was, he dropped pizza off. And but he was asked to go there, so, but it could have just been like, if you, I think it's very unlikely the pizza guy had anything to do with it. But he knew that she was there alone. He might have found her attractive, and if he was that type, a bad person would have done something, okay? We don't know. It's totally random. Oh, we got one of those subscriber barrages again? Okay. Wait, this isn't where I was. It was in an article. I was like, what am I looking at here? Okay, when he dropped off the breadsticks that evening, the pizza driver felt very strongly that she was not alone in her apartment. Oh, really? And sensed somebody else was present. Well, that's interesting. So maybe there was somebody that was over there early, and that's why she wasn't calling her sister, just emailing. And the person was like somebody interested in her, but maybe she wasn't interested. But that was just a sense he had. Thank you, Kit Kat. One of her neighbors who lived in the upstairs apartment C reported being woken up at 4 a.m. Sunday to horrible screams coming from the apartment directly below his. So this is even a guy. He heard horrible screams at 4 a.m. Maybe somebody was over at the house at the time, left, then came back, though. It was apartment A, Stacy's. The screams continued, and he couldn't go back to sleep. What the hell? Oh, what an idiot. He also heard loud banging, according to the report. The neighbor did not check on Stacy until 2 p.m. the next afternoon. Only to be met with no answer and Boots patiently waiting outside the cat. I'm an idiot. Jeez. Let me do it. Positive, enthusiastic, vibrant. Those are the 3 words. Let me see if we can get this to play here.
She disappeared off the face of the earth. There was no trace of her.
It is March 24th, 1998. Stacey Colbert graduated from Ohio State less than a year earlier and landed a job as a marketing assistant at American Electric Power in Columbus. But Stacey hadn't reported to work in days.
You got the call from AEP that she hadn't been to work. And so when you got that call...
Oh, I knew there was a problem. Like, I knew right away, that's not Stacy. She doesn't not show up for
What if
work.
they looked into the guy
Danielle
in
dropped
apartment
everything
C?
and ran to Stacy's apartment.
And when I got there obviously was something wrong. All
I mean,
of
if
her
he was
stuff
screaming like that, but did anybody else hear screaming?
there. She wasn't there. The door was kind of creaked open. Everything was there. Her car was there. Her clothes were there.
Danielle called the police.
No, he didn't claim that there was somebody there, Holly. He didn't claim that there was somebody there. He just said he had a feeling that there was somebody there. That's what he said, okay? So you got to get that right. He didn't say that.
It was a nightmare. That night was a nightmare.
The last person to see Stacy alive was a pizza delivery man on Saturday, March 21st, who brought breadsticks to her door. He didn't see anyone else, but told police he had a strong feeling
that was it,
she
yeah.
wasn't alone. A box of half-eaten, but brought breadsticks to her door.
See, it's right there.
He didn't see anyone else, but told police he had a strong feeling she wasn't alone. A box of half-eaten breadsticks was found on Stacy's kitchen table.
Right, but she
We're
ordered
told
them.
that the neighbor heard screams, didn't do anything about it. We didn't know if she had died that night.
Right.
We didn't know
I think
if
so.
maybe it was something else. It wasn't really what they heard. It wasn't from our apartment. So, you tell yourself, well, maybe that didn't happen. Maybe she's okay.
As a mother, for you to get that call from Danielle that
Thanks,
something
Carolyn
was wrong, something went wrong with
EHS.
Stacy, what was that reaction like?
It literally is like a punch in the stomach, and you can't breathe, and you can't think, and you're in shock.
This doesn't happen to the people you know, the people you love. This is a stat. This happens to other people. This happens not to college kids. This happens, you just think it's everything else, that it can't touch you. And it touched us.
Yeah, well, a feeling isn't always right. That's why it's a big difference. Let's see. With her head in the books during the week, her feet were on the dance floors. Let's see if this is another.
She was very passionate about things that she liked, and had a heart of gold. And so,
Yeah, she didn't do anything halfway. It was
No.
either all
This
or
link's in the
nothing.
description.
Is the two of you right here?
Yep, that's us.
Danielle and her little sister Stacy were born just 3 years apart. These photo albums hold countless memories they shared together. But those pictures stopped in 1998 when Stacy went missing.
What was she like?
Oh, she was very athletic. So she was always involved in soccer, softball, track, then cheerleading, and tennis. Oh yes, tennis.
She actually varsity lettered her freshman year.
Stacy and Danielle were born in Chicago, but their family moved to a small town in Charleston, Illinois.
It really gave you a feeling of safety because you knew everyone there, and neighbors helped neighbors out. So
When big sister Danielle left home, she went to a university 5 times the size of her hometown.
And my dad went to Ohio State, so that's how I ended up in Ohio.
Stacy and I, when Danielle was there, we would go visit her and sleep on the floor of her dorm room. I was a lot younger then.
Soon, Stacy was in a dorm of her own and became a buc-ee just like her big sister.
Yeah, let's see what this timeline has in it. So on Saturday, March 21st, that's weird. The website has a different date than that. The Ohio website. They have March 24th. So, I wonder if they're just wrong. That website, they didn't seem to give a shit anyways. They just kind of whipped something together. So, I'm kind of thinking that the sister had it right, the 22nd. So it says at 5:58, the pizza delivery man arrives at Stacy Colbert's apartment and is the last to report her alive from her Governor Square apartment. And then Sunday, March 22nd, 4 a.m., upstairs neighbor in apartment C reported hearing screams and loud banging. I mean, what did the police see at the apartment? There must have been all kinds of evidence in there. Coming from the apartment A belonging to Stacy. 2 p.m., the same neighbor, knocks on Stacy's door, receives no answer, and saw Boots, the cat, that Stacy owned, just roaming around outside. Then the Monday, the following day, 9 p.m., during the 70th Academy Awards ceremony, phone calls from... Oh, I see. So that's the day. Her sister just never replied to any of them. Phone calls from Daniel Nussbaum to her younger sister go unanswered. And the day after that, at 6 p.m., Nussbaum receives a voicemail from Stacy's workplace when she gets home from work, alerting her that her sister hadn't been to work in days. And then a week later, at 8 p.m., a vigil is held by Ohio State with members of the Greek community, students, locals, and public officials. Then on November 27, 2004, Stacy's remains were found by a hunter in search of his lost dog under debris in wooded land in Delaware County. So that's crazy, man. That's just wild. They did have that whole area with leaves that they collected, but you're talking about 6 years later in the elements. Not a very good chance. Not a very good chance at finding anything. Alright, so that's that story, but maybe we'll look at that other one tomorrow. The other person that was mentioned as possibly being that body. Wasn't that... no, not that one. No, I have it right over here. Yeah, she was found far away. She was abducted from her apartment. It's up here, look. It's probably, I don't know, 20 miles maybe? I'm just guessing. 23.05 miles. She's found up by, like, around in this area near this river, under some brush. You know, so whoever did this, if it's not somebody she knew, it's probably just a serial killer. And the other bodies, there's probably other missing people, they just weren't found. It's probably a complete miracle that her body was even found at all. A little bit like Cheryl Coker. You know, her body was found, but it's just a miracle that somebody happened to be in that little clump of trees in the middle of nowhere. Huh? No, not 2 miles. Not 2 miles. I just told you guys how far away it was. It was like 23 miles. Okay. All right, moving on to the next story now. Okay. That was Patricia Atkins was the other one. Okay. So I'll look at Patricia Atkins tomorrow. Don't send me emails. Don't go, hey, great, look what I found out. I don't care. I like looking it up myself. Okay. See, that makes it more fun for me. Like here's what I hate is when people send me a case they want me to look at, and they send me 58 links to the case. All right, and I don't even look at any of them at that point. I just look at the name of the person and I go do my own thing. I'm not just a presenter, you know. I like to try to look it up, try to find everything and put it all together. Right? Okay, awesome. Appreciate the thought though, but that's just how it works. All right, so this next one, somebody named Kathy emailed me, and she did it exactly how I want. They just sent me a link to a case, and I looked at it, and I go, oh, okay, let me just check it out. And, you know, then I just kind of kept digging through it, and it seemed pretty interesting. But again, I don't read I barely read any of the articles, because I like to work through it at the same time with you guys. Oh, jeez. Look at that, everybody. LM sleuthed out the history of the Governor Square apartments. Good work, man. Boy. That's awesome. Man. It doesn't do anything to do that, okay? It doesn't help out or anything like that, okay? She was abducted from the apartment, and her body was found 23 miles away, as a crow flies, somewhere else. Yeah, it already explained it, how close it was in there. All right, so here we go. I'm going to, we're moving over to Isabel Cordle, C-O-R-D-L-E. All right. So I'm doing everything in this story in order here. You might wonder why I'm talking about anything, okay? But here we go. A Bellevue man was found guilty Thursday in Sandusky County Common Pleas Court to one count of corruption of a minor. Mark G. Carter, 27, of 1312 West Main Street, pleaded no contest and was found guilty of the lesser charge of corrupting a minor. He originally was charged with the rape and felonious penetration of a 13-year-old boy. Judge Harry Sargent referred Carter to the Adult Probation Department for pre-sentence investigation. So here's where he lives, same town, same general area. That's not related to the last case, but he lived right here. If you go back, in this time frame, you can see that there was probably some kind of a house of some sort in there. This one you can't see, unfortunately, but you can actually see some buildings right there. And then later on, I think at other times, there's still something right there, and then eventually nothing. So if you go all the way to the end here, I guess that one's still there, but I think there was something right here at one point. So that house that he lived at is not there anymore. So and then it says this is another story. A Bellevue man was sentenced Monday to 2.5 to 10 years in prison for corruption of a minor. Mark G. Carter, 27, of 1312 West Main Street, was sentenced in Sandusky County Common Pleas Court by Judge Harry Sargent. He will serve his sentence in Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield. Carter originally pleaded innocent to charges of rape and felonious sexual penetration. He later pleaded no contest to the corruption of a minor and was found guilty. All right. So he didn't accept, he just got corruption of a minor. Okay, that's 1987. In May and July were those two articles, all right? Are you guys paying attention to this one? Let me know. Okay. All right. Wow, I guess there's actually people that are listening. Look at all those people. Man, it's amazing. I guess the ones that are typing aren't. They're looking up reviews of apartment complexes. All right. Bellevue woman murdered. So this is what we're talking about. A 49-year-old rural Bellevue woman was found dead in her home Sunday morning, apparently murdered while family members slept. Isabel Cordle of 1350 West Main Street, right here. That's where she lived. This is about, it's 4 months later. At this time, Mark G. Carter at this point is in prison. Well, yeah, you don't have a clue about many of the cases, right, Gene? I mean, nobody really knows much about any of the cases that I talk about because they're ones that nobody talks about. So anyways, right here it says, a 49-year-old rural Bellevue woman was found dead in her home Sunday morning, apparently murdered while family members slept. Isabel Cordle, 1350 West Main Street, was discovered by her husband, Richard, about 6:12 a.m., lying on a couch with the television still on, said Sandusky County Sheriff Detective Lee Schwartz. She had been struck in the head with a sharp object, he said. Richard Cordle and 3 children, ages 9, 10, and 14, were home sleeping at the time. Isn't that crazy? But you can tell it must have been a really silent, quiet deal because the TV's still on. So it was probably late at night. I bet it was at, 12, 1 in the morning. Somebody snuck in there and just boom. You might be suspicious of Richard, too, the husband, because that's kind of, how it just works. I'm sure he was questioned a bunch. There are no suspects, he said. Cordle died from head injuries, said Sandusky County Coroner Samuel Lowry. She had been struck 3 times, he said, describing the weapon as a hatchet. Lowry estimated the time of death between 1 and 2 a.m. The last time Cordle was seen alive was about 11 p.m. when she arrived home. See, that's exactly right. See? Lowry estimated the time of death between 1 and 2 a.m. I was thinking it was going to be late, right? The last time Cordle was seen alive was about 11 p.m. when she arrived home from playing bingo. So that's probably why when she got home, she just sat around watching television. We have no idea what's going on at this point. Nobody heard anything, he said. What is believed to be the murder weapon was actually found in the yard of the residence. God, I hope they still have that. We're trying to track it down where it came from. We called in the FBI to help us track down where it was purchased. It's funny how they have the weapon, but above they said a sharp instrument. I mean, why wouldn't you just say what it was, right? It turns out to be a hatchet, right? We're trying to track it down where it came from. We called the FBI to help us track down where it was purchased, Swartz said. The front door was found open, but there were no signs of forced entry, Swartz said. There were no signs of burglary, he said. The investigation is continuing. Thanks, Sarita. No signs of burglary, no signs of forced entry. Probably didn't even lock the door. Sandusky County deputies are investigating because the Cordell home is located about a mile to the west of the city limits, Swartz said. Isabel Ann Cordell, 49, of 1350 West Main Street, was found dead at her home Sunday morning, a victim of murder. Born on November 23, 1938 in Boston, Cordell was the daughter of Herman and Ruth Descant. Also surviving are 3 sons, Wayne Henry of Fort Sam, Houston, Texas, Richard Jr. and Edward, both at home. Thanks. Hey, LM, what are you looking up on this one, LM? Special jury meets today over slang. I'm just flipping LM crap because of what she said the other night. Thanks, Rochelle Black. All right. Special jury meets today over slang. A special session of the Sandusky County Grand Jury convened this morning to hear testimony about the January slaying of a Bellevue woman. The grand jury will hear testimony from several witnesses on the homicide of Isabel Cordle, 1350 West Main Street. Cordle, 49, was found dead in the living room of her home by her husband Richard about 6:12 a.m. January 24th. She was lying on a couch with the television on. She had been struck 3 times in the head with a hatchet. Richard Cordell and 3 children, ages 9, 10, and 14, were home sleeping at the time. You know, I bet she was asleep. I bet she was watching TV and just kind of, dozed off while watching that. And the person was able to, before she could even scream, because I think if she was awake watching TV and she was hit with the first hatchet, she would have awoken and awakened and screamed at that point, right? Because the first one wouldn't have maybe done anything. But if you were already kind of dozing off or a little bit dazed and then hit, it would just kind of startle you awake, and then the next one would probably kill you at that point. And maybe even the first one. So Mark Grawling Carter, 29, formerly of 1312. Oh, look at that. Richard Cordell and 3 children, ages 9, 10, and 14, were home sleeping at the time. Cordell was last seen alive about 11 a.m. Mark Carter, 29, formerly of 1312 West Main Street, Bellevue, was brought up from Chillicothe Correctional Institute to testify. Well, that's interesting. He is not a suspect. He is part of the investigation. But he's in prison, so why would he be part of it? I see. Yeah, that's interesting, though. See, that's the same guy that was right here, Mark Carter. They brought him in for questioning as part of the investigation. I expect the grand jury will be meeting all day. We may have a suspect after it's over. Sandusky County Prosecutor John Myers was not available. Prosecutor says more work to do in Bellevue killing. No indictment, but more information on the January slaying of the Bellevue woman came out of special meeting of Sandusky County grand jury. From what we learned, we have more field work to do. He said he would not speculate when someone might be charged with the January 24th homicide of Isabel Cordle. Anytime something like this comes up, you have suspects. There's more than one theory that we're working on, Myers said. The special grand jury met Wednesday straight through from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. We met until we could not conceivably hold them any longer on one day. I'm not in a position to say when we will reconvene. A regular meeting of the grand jury takes place next week. The special grand jury heard testimony in the killing of Cordle in her home at 1350 West Main Street. She had been struck in the head with a hatchet while family members slept. This was, maybe they asked the neighbor, they brought the neighbor in, at that time, perhaps, just because he lived there and he might have some information. This was an investigative grand jury in that I didn't ask for an indictment. It's valuable because we are able to put people under oath. It keeps them from changing their stories later. All the testimony was on the Bellevue murder. One of the witnesses, Mark Carter, again, his name brought up again, formerly of 1312 West Main Street, Bellevue, was brought up from Ross Correctional Institute near Chilcott to testify, said Sandusky County Sheriff Detective Tom Rathbone. Carter was in prison, serving a 2.5 to 10-year sentence for corruption of a minor. He was in prison when the murder occurred. He is not a suspect of being the... Listen to how he worded this, everybody. He's not a suspect of being the person who did the killing. What do you think that's implying right there? See, that sentence right there, I do know something about something in the future, so what do you think that sentence means? If you were reading that, you can tell it's carefully worded. It's not, it didn't just end right there. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Michelle got it right, and then Dana Dane. So that's interesting. It's kind of interesting that he worded it like that way, but when you read it originally, you probably would just gloss right over it, He's not a suspect of being the person who did the killing. In the 6 months since the murder, hundreds of detective hours have been put on this murder, Myers said. I want to get someone charged, and I want to very badly, but I only get one shot in court to indict someone. You only need probable cause to convict someone. You need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. 90 days after I indict someone, I have to have them in court. I have to make sure whoever gets indicted gets convicted. So that was June 25th, 1988. And then October. Bellevue hatchet death still open. Sandusky County Sheriff detectives are continuing the investigation. Detectives today began interviews with people never before questioned in the death of Isabel Cordle, 1350 West Main Street. Cordle, 49, was found dead in the living room of her home by her husband, Richard, about 6:12 a.m. on January 24th. She was lying on a couch and had been struck 3 times in the head with a hatchet. Richard Cordle and 3 children ages 9, 10, and 14. What is this thing? I don't even know what that was. What happened right there? I don't know. That was weird. It just kind of had something pop up. Let's see. Isabel Cordle was last seen alive at 11 a.m. No, I think that meant you meant 11 p.m., right? Not 11 a.m. That's not right, I don't think. That doesn't make any sense. When she arrived home from playing bingo, that would have been 11 p.m. No suspects have been named in the case. Initially, detectives will interview about 12 who could possibly aid in the investigation. They may be directly or indirectly related to the case, Swartz said. The number of individuals interviewed will vary as more may be questioned. The interviews were set up as a result of information presented to a June 23rd special session. Detective Swartz, Tom Rathbun, Hollis McBroom, and Sandusky County Prosecutor John Myers wanted the grand jury organized so they could have the witnesses' testimony on record. Mark Grawling Carter, 29, formerly of 1312 West Main Street, Bellevue, was brought up from the Chillicothe Correctional Institute to testify. He is not a suspect, but is part of the investigation. Well, he worded it a little differently a minute ago. He said he's not the suspect of the person who did the actual killing. All right, so that was 1988, and there was just a long period of nothingness. And I moved all the way to 2000. Edward Cordle was 12 years old when his mother was murdered in their home as family members slept. His sister believes the event profoundly affected his life and his death. Cordle, 24, committed suicide Sunday night in the Seneca County Jail, where he had been held since March 7th on a probation violation. He has been dysfunctional since the time of the murder, his sister Dawn Smith said Wednesday. This is definitely the cause of the track he took. The January 24th, 1988 murder of Isabel Cordell, 49, of 1350 West Main Street, Bellevue, remains unsolved. Her husband, Richard Cordell, found her lying on the couch about 6 a.m. The television was on. She had been struck 3 times in the head with a hatchet. The coroner estimated she died between 1 and 2 a.m. The last time she was seen alive was about 11 p.m. when she arrived home from playing bingo, investigators said at the time. Smith said her brother never recovered from the death of their mother. His grades dropped. He started to get into trouble with the law and eventually dropped out of high school, Smith said. After Mom got murdered, he was angry because no one was ever punished. She said Cordell and 2 other siblings living at home at the time never received the proper care. He was a kid, she said. I begged them to get counseling. Cordell continued to live with his father, but eventually moved in with Smith when she was living in Bowling Green. When Smith moved to Bellevue, Cordell decided to stay in Bowling Green, she said. In October 1995, he pleaded guilty in Wood County Common Police Court to breaking and entering and was placed on probation according to court records. On April 2nd, 1997, he was released from probation. Cordell then moved to Norwalk, where he had run-ins with the law but was never arrested. He then moved to Bellevue and started to hang around in Tiffin, where he was charged with robbery. From that point on, he never seemed to escape the attention of law enforcement. This isn't related down there. That's just another sad part of the story. And then 13 years after that, look at that. ColdJustice picked it up, huh? You've seen that show, right? The Sandusky County Sheriff's Office reopened investigation into a 25-year-old Bellevue homicide. Will be featured tonight on a national TV. The TNT crime drama ColdJustice will show new efforts to solve the killing of Isabel Cordell, 49, of Bellevue, who died by a hatchet wound to the head. Cordell's husband found her around 6 a.m. January 24th, 1988, on the couch at her home at 1350 West Main Street. Detectives found a hatchet leaning against a tree outside the house and began investigating the death as a homicide. Then the case went cold. With the help of ColdJustice, the sheriff's office is examining new angles and has a suspect detectives believe likely committed the crime, said Detective Captain Sean O'Connell of the sheriff's office. We're getting close to putting this whole thing together, O'Connell said. It's like a puzzle, and we have most of the pieces, but are missing one or two. In the episode, detectives work with the stars of the show, former Texas prosecutor Kelly Siegler and crime scene investigator Yolanda McClary to start the investigation over Sheriff Kyle Overmeyer said. Siegler and McClary each have more than 20 years of investigation experience. Their expertise really helped us, Overmeyer said. A production crew from the show spent 2 weeks filming. Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to move on to the next one. So let's see. That was in October. And the detective tipped helped solve case. Did they solve it? New information on a 25-year-old Bellevue homicide case led to evidence detectives will present before a grand jury. Sandusky County Sheriff's Detective Sean O'Connell said at least 7 people called the sheriff's office after the ColdJustice episode aired. Several of those people suggested detectives focus their investigation on Mark Carter. Remember that guy? A man who, while in jail at the time of the murder, had prior history with the Cordell family before Isabel's death in 1988. So I remember Mark Carter, he got arrested for the child abuse, right? The corruption of a minor is what he accepted a plea on. So, a man who, while in jail at the time of the murder, had prior history with the Cordell family before Isabel's death in 1988. O'Connell said the calls caused detectives to focus their investigation with Carter as the primary suspect. He said he now feels confident he knows what happened to Cordell on the morning she was murdered. It's now a matter of putting everything back in chronological order to present and submit to the prosecutor's office, O'Connell said. I feel confident that I know what happened to Isabel Cordell. I just hope a grand jury sees it the way that we see it. Isabel's husband, Richard, found his wife dead with a hatchet wound in her head at 6 a.m. January 24, 1988. Detectives at the time found a hatchet leaning against a tree outside, but were unable to piece together who was responsible for the murder. Huh? What are you talking about, Dana Dane? Who abused somebody? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I thought you were saying, like, was it one of her kids he abused? No. I mean, I don't think so. But I know this is that she's the one, she reported it. I think we find that out later. But let's just go through it. I don't know exactly what it was. Detectives at the time found a hatchet leaning against a tree outside, but were unable to piece together who was responsible for the murder. Sandusky County Sheriff Kyle Overmeyer, but maybe it was. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't really know the answer to that. It doesn't seem like. I thought you were saying one of the kids did it because he was abused. But I knew what you meant. Reopened the case this summer with the help of former Texas prosecutor Kerry Siegler. O'Connell said the television series gave detectives an opportunity to visit the case and interview more suspects. Detectives hope to submit the case to the prosecutor for review. That's what they usually do at the end of their shows. All right. ColdJustice upsets the Cordell family. So this is like 4 or 5 months later. I want to see what's going on here. At the end of a national TV show that examined the cold case killing of a Bellevue woman, the investigators determined they believed her husband. Oh, wow. They believed their husband was the killer. Really? See? Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that part, but yeah, you would think that at first. But, wow. So all those calls that came, that means on the show, they implicated the husband. Oh, man, what a nightmare. The show ended with the victim, Isabel Cordle's husband, Richard Cordle, walking out of an interrogation, disgusted and maintaining his innocence. During the episode of TNT's ColdJustice that aired in October, Cordle's son, Richard Cordle Jr., also was named as a suspect in her death. Jeez. Right? Yeah, the 14-year-old. Yeah. More than 4 months later, the Sandusky County Sheriff's Office no longer believes either man had anything to do with Isabel Cordle's death. Instead, investigators have pinpointed at least one person who they believe killed Isabel Cordle 26 years ago with a hatchet in the night as she slept, as she slept on the couch at the family's West Main Street home. So she came home from bingo, sat down, watched TV to unwind, fell asleep, and then was attacked with the knife, right? I mean, the hatchet. That's kind of what I was picturing. Man, I really could do this kind of shit. You know? Just based on what you're told, it's like it just kind of made more sense. You know, I think it's just over time when you cover so much of this stuff that you just you get like a different sense of how. Don't you guys feel like you can do that too a little bit? Like you get a sense of how things are working out and what's really going on based on the evidence that you hear. Evidence against this suspect or suspects will be presented to a grand jury next week in Sandusky County Common Pleas Court for possible charges, said Detective Captain Sean O'Connell of the Sandusky County Sheriff's Office. Although the Cordle family is glad it seems the case is finally moving forward, they are not at all pleased with how they were portrayed on ColdJustice, or how the investigation has gone, said Cordle Jr., 40 years old. ColdJustice takes former Texas prosecutor Kerry Siegler and crime scene investigator Yolanda McClary and pairs them with a team of detectives and forensic psychologists. In this case, the group worked with investigators from the Sandusky County Sheriff's Office. I feel the TV show did me and my family wrong. Yeah, and I think this is what she got in trouble for, something like that. This lady. I feel the TV show did me and my family wrong, Cordle said. Thanks, Lee D. Yeah, it's been a slow night. Not a lot of waves going on, you know what I'm saying? Normally that happens, but it's okay. You guys have been it's been so good lately. That's why I'm trying to get so we can donate that larger amount at the end of the month. But I think we'll be able to do that. Just want to make sure it doesn't just go psh. ColdJustice portrayed his family as though he and his siblings did not make much of their lives ColdJustice portrayed his family as though he and his siblings did not make much of their lives and suggested father and son might be the killers before a national audience. A spokeswoman for the show was not available for comment Friday. I understand their concerns and I sympathize, O'Connell said. I understand why the TV show came out for us to believe Richard Cordle Sr. was a suspect. He had a lot of motive. Really? Who said that? Cordle Sr. had told investigators he and his wife were having problems. Oh, maybe that's why she was sleeping on the couch. Because the show aired, the sheriff's office began receiving tips that led investigators in the direction of the latest suspect, he said. Hey, thank you. Amber Maiden. The start of a wave. Amber Maiden. The sheriff's office. Oh. So the show had a benefit.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
The start of a wave, the grey.
Well, thank you. You know, it did have a great effect. But here's the thing. What's interesting is 7 people called in mentioning the other person. Even after the show went after the husband and son. That means that, man, these people were so convinced already. That's amazing. Because the show aired, the sheriff's office began receiving tips that led investigators in the direction of the latest suspect, he said. The sheriff's office's determination that another suspect or suspects who were mentioned on the show but determined to be false leads are responsible doesn't make up for suggesting he and his father might have killed Isabel Cordle. It's almost like now they're trying to cover up the mistake they made. He said Sandusky County Prosecutor Tom Stierwalt has not returned his phone calls on the case, and O'Connell has repeatedly told him different dates for when the case might go to the grand jury. Stierwalt declined to comment, saying the matter is a pending case. O'Connell said he let the family know his investigation was finished and gave them potential times for when the case might go to a grand jury. I wonder if they, in that show, if they suggested that the suicide of the son was related to that somehow. Like, oh, he killed himself because he had so much, like, guilt from it. Thanks, lady. Yeah, but I think the son killed himself before.
Surfer.
Yeah, see, he killed himself in 2000. But that was Edward Cordle. So let's go back to the I believe Richard Cordle Sr. was a suspect. Against the suspects, although Cordle's family is glad it seems the cases. Pinpoint at least one person. Alright, right up here. Richard. Well, now I can't remember what the hell that name was. Edward. Okay, so it's a different son. So they have Richard Cordle Jr. and Sr. Thanks, Sarita. I apologize if I came across that way, O'Connell said. I always assured the family as soon as I know, you'll be the first to know, and I kept my promise. It took the prosecutor's office so long to look at it because we're looking back 26 years worth of work. Since the case was reopened last fall, Cordle Jr. has tried to deal with the fallout and tried to put it behind him. He said he's been to counseling and wants to see justice for his mother, whom he said he never would have hurt. She watched out for the family and protected her 6 children, he said. She loved kids, he said. She was in the school PTO. She was our Cub Scout leader. The night she died, Isabel Cordle had gone to the Cleveland area to play bingo. He remembers seeing her before she left. When she came home, she was asleep on the couch. When she came home, He was asleep on the couch, and she woke him up and sent him to bed. Wow, that's crazy. She then went to sleep on the couch. In the morning, she was dead from hatchet wounds to the head. A hatchet was found by a tree outside the home. I just remember going to bed, he said. I woke up the next day, and my dad was screaming. He just screamed at us to stay upstairs. Cordell Jr. was 14. Before his mother's death, he remembers a potential suspect in the murder threatening his mother, saying, "It's not over until you're dead." After more than 2 decades of turmoil, he and his family hope investigators and the court determine who really killed his mother. Whoever did it, he said, I hope they pay for it. Yeah, and then here's like the ColdJustice website here. Let's see what it says on here. In the early morning hours of January 24th, 1988, 49-year-old mother of 6, Isabel Cordle, fell asleep on her couch watching TV. Sometime before 6 a.m., someone sneaked up on her while she slept and hit her in the head with a hatchet 4 times. I thought it was 3. She died on the couch, never waking from her slumber. Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. Her husband found her the next morning as she prepared to work and called 911. When the police arrived, Isabel's husband and 3 of her children were upstairs, scared and confused. Police not only found trails of blood, they also found what could have been the murder weapon, a hatchet, propped up on a tree outside right by the door. Why would the murderer leave the hatchet in plain sight? Were they trying to set someone up? Or did the murderer leave it there and then run back in the house? Yeah, that makes even less sense, okay? In a plea agreement 5 months before Isabel Cordell was killed, see, this is Carter, that guy, right? Suspects, Mark Carter, Greg Weller. In a plea agreement 5 months before Isabel Cordell was killed, Carter was convicted on a corruption of a minor charge and sent to prison. That's why I went and found those 2 articles from before. The sexual assault charges against him were dropped. Carter was in prison when Isabel Cordell was killed, but family members conjectured he sought revenge because it was Isabel Cordell who pushed prosecutors to charge Carter. Oh, there you go. It was her son. You got that? You guessed it right there, Dana Dane. There you go. Look at that. So that is what it was. And yeah, I mean, they live right next door, so there you go. You got the son. See that? Dana Dane, she had a prophetic moment. She probably left, so she doesn't know. But there you go. Carter was in prison. I didn't read that part yet, but that's why I said, well, maybe let's go. You know, I knew there was something about this later. So anyways, Carter was in prison when Isabel Cordell was killed, but family members conjectured he sought revenge because it was Isabel Cordell who pushed prosecutors to charge Carter for the assault of her son. Some of the new information received involved a 16-year-old boy, Greg Weller, who was the son of a sheriff deputy. Oh, now you're getting this crazy Looney Tunes right now. Cordell Jr. believed it was likely, so, you know, this is the older son now, he's like 40-something, believed it was likely that Carter, who put Weller up to killing his mother. So Carter put the 16-year-old kid up. How would he do that, though? Greg Weller was listed as a potential witness for Carter in court documents. Oh, there you go. Prior to the plea agreement Carter reached with prosecutors on the rape charge against him. Detectives say they're fairly certain they've solved the 26-year-old case and took their case to a grand jury, but were denied a murder indictment. It's probably all circumstantial, but hey, pretty crazy. Well, good guess there, Dana Dane. Good guess. Yep, so you had the, they're living right here in this house with children, young children. And this Carter guy lived here, and it was the kid must have told one of the parents, and then the mother pushed for him, and he got prison time. And he got so angry about that he hired a hitman, but it was actually a 16-year-old kid that went over there, and man, that's just wow. Why would a 16-year-old kid do that, though? Maybe he was also one of his victims, right? Anyways, that's it, everybody. Crazy, right? But weren't those both kind of those are interesting, right? Cases that you'd never hear about, but it's always interesting to go all the way back, find all the newspaper articles, go through them all, and get the whole story. Sometimes it's repeating itself, but at the same time it puts it in your mind, and then boom, right? Yeah. So thank you, Kathy, out there. Woo! Sandra Turner and Rebecca Hood. Thank you, Sandra Turner. Just blew my ears right out.
Gray is the man. Dana is the woman.
What do you mean? You actually looked up stories while I was going over it? Ah, jeez. Now you cheated then. Ah, God. When I do this show, what you should do is just pay attention to the show and don't look up stuff on the side. It's just, it throws everything off. I just want to go through it because a lot of times the stuff that you're going to say will just come up later. Yeah. I don't know what that means. You and I are right beside each other on the keyboard. I don't know what that means. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. If you didn't pull the other story up about the guy. Okay. Yeah, well, the thing is, that's when when I saw a reference to his name, I went back to try to find the original arrest, when in the paper, and by God, it was in there. It just didn't mention her name. So this is, 1987, you had these articles that were just part of longer articles, saying a Bellevue man was found guilty Thursday in Sandusky Common Pleas Court to one count of corruption of a minor, Mark Carter, 27, at that time. 1312. Don't they have the hatchet, though? And isn't there DNA on the hatchet? Unless he told the kid, hey, wear gloves when you use this hatchet. He originally was charged with the rape and felonious penetration of a 13-year-old boy. And so 13, remember one of the kids was 14? And guess what? That's the kid that killed himself, I believe. I think the other son was older, living somewhere else. Here, let me get back to... I think that had a lot to do with messing him up too, then. Right? Let me read about this again. I got the obituary. Let me get the obituary out. We can get this dialed in here. No, it wasn't, because the 14-year-old was at home, I believe. Unless they're saying... Let me read this again. All surviving are 3 sons, so there's only 3 sons. Wayne, Fort Henry, of Fort Sam, Houston, Texas. Richard Jr. and Edward, both at home. 3 daughters. Wow, they had 3 daughters too. Where were they? How come they never mentioned any of the daughters? Also surviving are 3 sons, Wayne, both at home. 3 daughters, Dawn, Smith, both Bellevue, and Catherine at home. 11 children, 11 grandchildren. They were that. She was only 49 years old. There, let's see this. Okay, here it is. Richard Cordle and 3 children, ages 9, 10, and 14. So I think one of these is a daughter. The other kids are older. This kid right here is, I think that one is Richard Jr. I think the person that was probably assaulted is Richard Jr. See, he's a 14-year-old, but again, this happened about 5 months prior, so then you probably think, okay, well, or maybe even 6 months prior was the assault, so maybe he was only 13 at the time. So he isn't the one that killed himself. I think it might have been the 10-year-old here, the other son that was at home. I think Wayne, is that right? No, it's Edward. So let me go back now to the obituary. Three sons, Richard Jr. and Edward, both at home. 3 daughters, Dawn, Henry Smith, and Sherry Bond, both of Bellevue, so they were older. And then Catherine was at home. And so, okay, so it's the people that were there were Catherine, Richard, and Edward. And Edward's the one that killed himself. And Richard is the one that's still alive in these articles. And he was one that was accused because he was 14. But why would he do that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I wonder, it'd be interesting to know all the details on what the father, I mean, maybe there was some good reasons why he was a suspect to some people, but to put that on a national TV show? Come on. Jeez. What is this place? Oh, it's a hospital. Thanks, Jessica Schubach. All right. Well, I think that is it, you guys. Pretty interesting case. Hopefully, I'm not sure how they can do it, but you'd think that the axe would have something on it. Yeah, but they have 11 grandchildren, Amber. How many do you got? 1, it sounds like. They had 11 at 49.
He'll ride the wave, surfer.
Yep. But anyways, good guess there, Dana Dane. I knew that he was, there was something about him assaulting a boy, but I hadn't read the part yet that you guessed about. So yeah, that would be why. But I also thought maybe because she lives so close to him, she just saw what happened. It'd be interesting to get more detail on that aspect of it. The police have that, though. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys for showing up tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Still been on here for 2 hours and 21 minutes. Maybe I'll get off a little early, making up for the 4 hours yesterday. 3.5, well, actually 4.5, because I did an hour on Facebook to discuss the Delphi case with people that are still just so, like, after 4 years, they don't even know any of the physical locations. So. Oh. YouTube, you did it again. You got rid of all the names, so I got to go onto a different page here to get this. But see, that also proves that I don't read it like I told you I do. I don't read all the stuff because I like to think about it while I'm going. Okay, I'd have to open up the super chat page on Facebook to be able to read these.
All right. Thank you to Emily Flotilla with a cat eye donation. Michelle Miklas, Allie Cake, Lee D, classical guitarist, Zozo, Claudia Neubauer, Kit Kat, Carolina EHS, Sarita, Rochelle Black, Lee D, Amber Maiden, Lee D, Sarita, Sandra Turner with a cat eye, Rebecca N, and Jessica Schubach. Wow.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, the Delphi groups are ridiculous, I gotta tell you. But, alright everybody, make sure that you wash your hands, maintain your social distancing, wear a mask, and get your shots like a lot of the freaks in here have got. Of course, people like me have to wait because our governor's dumb, I almost said the F word after that, but she's a dumb shit, I'll say that. Absolutely an idiot, okay? So, yeah, we'll be back on tomorrow, everybody, to do another show. Thank you guys for all participating. Even you, LM, for looking up how the apartment complex reviews work. Very enlightening information. All right? So thank you guys very much. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. And a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 5, and a 6, and a 7, and an 8, and a 9. Where the hell's the... There it is. Oh, it might play slow. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, the rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector.
What happened, Sarita? What happened?
Professor Grego's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector, fool deflector, interceptor, and I'll meet a specter with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember.
member of a temple fucking church. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you.
All right. Yeah, that was good stuff, man. Hey, are you talking to me? Who? Me? You or who?
Wait, that's me. I'm supposed to be saying that.
Oh, wait. No, I thought... Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for showing up here, and we'll play that what do we call this? See, the name of the actual folder itself is called Freaks Wearing. See? It's Freaks Wearing. So you just have to send in, when you buy something, you put it up here, and then it plays during the music at the end. So make sure if you get something, or if I send you something, just send in a picture so we can put it up there. Alright? That includes you, Dan Carr. Alright? Since you won the damn the contest, you got to send it in. And you have your mug about a watched pig never boils.
Alright, well, hey, thanks, Gray. That was a good show, man. Really interesting stuff. I mean, I especially like the part.
Would you just be quiet?
Gosh, John Boy, I just wanted to say I like the show. Gee. Did
somebody ask about Julie Wenflin? I didn't see anybody. Why are you telling everybody that, okay? It's like out of nowhere. Hey everybody, Gray has a video on Julie Wenflin. Okay, Hey, thank you, Linda Howe, as in Linda Molden Howe of the Cattle Mutilations and Crop Circles. Oh, look at that. Aliens, cattle, and corn in a circle. Yee-hoo, a crop circle. It all makes sense. Who's they, Kay? I don't see it listed anywhere up there. I scrolled up about a half mile and didn't see it. Yeah, I did Julie Weflin about 8 months ago. That must have been before my surgery. Now, listen, everybody. Before asking me to do a case, type in YouTube, go to YouTube and type in Gray Hughes and the name of the case. And most likely it'll be there. okay? If it's not, then send me a link. But do that first, alright? Like somebody said, Gray, have you done Matrice Richards? And I said, yeah, 3 times. Matrice Richards? Gray, did you do that one? Okay, thanks, Kay, for letting me know who said that. We sang Happy Birthday for Richard yesterday. But yes, happy birthday again, Richard Watts. I think he's watching because you can tag him.
Oh wow, I thought it was over. Everybody, see you guys later. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Gray, are you around, Gray? Hello? Anybody there? Anybody there at all?
Hello. Hello. Is there anybody listening? Hello.
I've been abducted by an alien on one of Linda Moulton Howe's spaceships. Can you hear me, anybody? Hal. This is Hal. Just open the book, man. Hal wouldn't say that. We are at 3,000 feet, sir.
Wow, that's really interesting. So what if we're at 3,000 feet?
Well, I tell you where you're at all times. You are 47 feet from the toilet, sir.
Why do I need to know how far I am from the toilet?
I don't know, sir. I don't know why you programmed me. But you are 47 feet from the toilet, sir.
Well, I've just walked 3 more feet.
You are now 43 feet from the toilet, sir.
Wow, I don't need constant updates, though.
That's not part of my program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does sound like Hal, doesn't it? Yeah, anyways. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. See you guys tomorrow, and be safe out there.